Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. In this video, I'm going to talk to you all about 10.1 best, or I guess best, Warlock builds for Destruction, Demonology, and Affliction in single target and in AoE/Mythic Plus settings. Like always, week wars and add-ons, links down below to Twitch and Discord. We'll have for free for you guys. At the same time, links up here, Twitter, social media, and stuff you want to follow there. Patreon as well. If you'd like to support on Patreon, which I appreciate a million times. And yeah, let's just hop right into it. Okay, so getting into the general class tree and destruction builds. Now, off the bat here, we're going to talk about the class tree one time quickly. For the most part, this is like the general structure you follow for, I guess, most content, and that can change depending on Mythic Plus, depending on rating, whatever you want. For example, a good bit of time in Plus, I want to grab Dark Fury for a shorter cooldown on Shadow Fury, or AoE stun. There are times, like last week, where you want to be able to banish certain incorporeal mobs. There are times you might want other parts of this tree for more defensiveness, more traits here and there, this and that, whatever, what have you. If you'd like more traits to spend in different spots, you can pull points from things like Fiendish Drive, which is a bit of a damage reduction when you have Burning Rush on, but once again, if you want Banish and you want Dark Fury and other elements, that is more than fine to pull from. So moving on to Destro General Spec builds here. So the single target Destro build, this is the build that you'll play once you acquire your 4-piece from Aberrus. And it's not incredibly complicated or different from the last one we played in both the Incarnates. The main difference being you are indeed playing Channel Demon Fire and 2 points in Raging Demon Fire. Raging Demon Fire extends Immolate's duration, meaning that you don't refresh it anywhere near as often in single target. And besides that, you're playing the same general single target elements in Roaring Blaze. You've got Burn to Ashes, your Purple Infernal here in Ritual Avatar, Double Madness here, Chaos Incarnate, Embers, and your 3-minute Infernal. Once again, very similar to where you were involved in the Incarnates, barring having to hit CDF basically on cooldown to, proc your 4-piece from Aberrus. Moving on to the Havoc Cleave build here, build number 2. This build is very similar to the single target build. If you notice here, the one thing that changes is really 2 points in Scalding Flame from single target, heading into 2 points in Rolling Havoc. You're still playing the same thing. Still playing CDF, still playing Raging, still playing EP, Roaring Blaze, all that. But you're playing 2 points in Rolling Havoc, so whenever you duplicate spells with Havoc and cleave them, you get that large stacking damage increase, 2% per stack, so 10% at max stacks. And you can chain that for basically 15 seconds, being the duration of Havoc. Very strong in Stack Cleave, very strong in Spread Cleave, good in really any setting where you get like just a lot of raw Havoc value. Now, when it comes to AoE builds, there are 2 different builds here that are being played. I've seen this sort of go both ways. Now, this build is, from what I've seen, the most, like, I guess, universally applicable build in Mythic Plus and AoE settings. This build is playing Rain of Fire, Pyrogenics, Inferno, the large AoE, build of Destro, big Inferno value, getting a lot of value in higher keys, 18, 20 plus keys fortified when a lot of packs are being pulled at once. But you're still playing CDF and still playing Raging Demon Fire. Now, CDF and Raging do indeed add some AoE value. They cleave on mobs that have Immolate on them. They cleave around them onto surrounding targets. Your 4-piece, I guess 2-piece and 4-piece also build upon that, adding in these purple bolts, which do damage as well. Then also hitting Channel Demon Fire gives you the stacking damage increase from your 4-piece and Aberrus up to, I believe, 8 or 9 stacks. Either way, it's a raw damage increase to every spell you cast. Rain of Fire, Chaos Ball, all that. So it is indeed worth hitting CDF with Raging and getting a full channel in AoE. At the same time, Roaring Blaze still brings good single target elements. Still playing Madness. You're still playing your Purple Infernal, Ritual into Ritualist, into Avatar. No Burned Ashes here. Opting for 1 point over here in Power Overwhelming to give you that large stacking mastery increase during big Rain of Fire windows, during big Chaos Ball dump windows in single target or cleave or whatever. But this build still retains good single target elements, but having really strong AoE in Rain of Fire, Inferno Spam, Infernal, your 2-piece, 4-piece from old tier, Sepulchre, Purple Infernals, and even getting CDF and Raging Cleave. Now, if you have not obtained your 4-piece from Aberrus, or just really don't want to play with CDF for whatever reason, this build here is seeing some play. This build just says, hey, we don't have a 2-piece, 4-piece at all, and we just play this. So the difference here is that you can look at this build here with no CDF and no Raging. The main difference is you're playing a point in Explosive Potential in this build here, and you are playing 2 points in Rolling Havoc, which is not being played in the AoE build here with CDF and Raging. In the end, if you're playing CDF and Raging, something has to go, and it's EP and Rolling Havoc. But if you don't want to play it for whatever reason, not having 2-piece, 4-piece, not wanting to hit CDF or whatever, this likely is the build that you would want to play in AoE and heavy AoE and Mythic Plus base settings. Links to all of them down below. So when it comes to Demonology, I have 6 builds here on the side. However, there are going to be 3 that we're going to cover here, which cover basically single target settings, AoE settings, Mythic Plus settings, and stack cleave base settings. This build here is the NPPLST build. That means Nether Portal, Pit Lord, single target. This build has pure single target elements built into it, being Nether Portal, Ner'zhul's Volition, and Gul'dan's Ambition for large Pit Lords, and that big, strong 3-minute Nether Portal damage profile. On top of that, you're playing Tyrant with Ring of Tyranny for that big minute-and-a-half damage window with every Tyrant. Things like Demonic Strength, things like Vile Fiend, Grimoire Felguard, Felsunder, Third Dog, Dread Calling. Talents you've played for a long time in single target SDMO. They're still here. We've played a very similar shell for a long time in most patchwork settings and raid encounters, and not much has really changed this tier outside of playing Ring of Tyranny. Now, your tier set, Iridius Fragment, your Clash Trinket build upon this, making it a very strong option in single target. But there's not a lot of cleave in this build. If you like cleave, things like Implosion, things like Dreadlash, things like Houndmaster Stratagem, you can opt to play a build called the Nether Portal Pit Lord Cleave build. And a few talents change. You can see that. So you pull Vile Fiend, you put it basically in Implosion. You have Dreadlash here over, let's say, Felsunder, and you're also playing Houndmaster Stratagem over Shadow's Bite for more of a stack cleave, or even like a mix of single target and AoE, depending what you're doing. But you still get the big elements of Nether Portal with Pit Lord, with Tyrant, with Ring of Tyranny, with Antoran Armaments, with Expendables, Demonic Strength, all of that. Both builds are very good at what they do. This build is a very strong cleave-based build. Played it on fights like Zakali Assault, on fights like, what else has adds this tier? Zakali Assault, things that have stat cleave. Mythic Plus, for example, if you're looking for a very strong single target based build, this build here, the Nether Portal Pit Lord Cleave build, is played at times in M+. You typically see this build here, the M+ Guillotine build, played a bit more, but if you're looking for a very strong single target emphasis, while having some cleave and Implosion and Dreadlash and just Houndmaster Stratagem, and the baseline cleave that Demo brings with Dogcast and things, this is a great option. Once again, this build here being the NP Pit Lord single target build, played on fights more like Rashok, Magmarax, Khazara, fights where there's no ads present. This is a pure single target. You're going to open the portal, you're going to pull a million demons out, and just blast one target down. So both builds, good options in a wide variety of settings. The last build here is going to be the Mythic Plus Guillotine build. Now, this build is what I typically play in Mythic Plus, once again, unless we're looking for a huge single target emphasis, that I'll shift back towards playing the Pit Lord Cleave build. But this build I've played universally on both Tyrannical and Fortify Weeks. You're playing Tyrant with Ring of Tyranny, you're playing Antoran into Expendables, 2 points in Infernal Command, you're playing Guillotine. Now, I will say, there's going to be a lot of questions about why not play Immutable Hatred in Tyrannical Weeks. You can play Hatred if you want in Tyrannical settings. But the fact of the matter is, I feel like it's not really worth the concession in losing Guillotine, even in Tyrannical settings. You want to Guillotine in single target, as well as AoE, but Guillotine helps a bit with Demo's lack of, I guess I'd say, cooldown-based damage outside of Tyrant and things, whether you're in M+, or even like an AoE, or even in single target. It's a fine option in both settings either way. It might favor Fortified maybe a bit more in certain settings, but you're still pulling multiple packs at once, and plus at times even multiple targets at once. So Guillotine gets value basically universally. Immutable Hatred will offer a bit of a higher single target sustain profile, but it loses damage when you're, based on hitting multiple targets, which just sort of devalues it a bit on certain boss fights where there's multiple targets present in the first place. It's not, you can play Immutable Hatred on Tyrannical Weeks if you want. A Ring of Tyranny, Immutable Hatred build. But like I said, I've played Ring of Tyranny, Guillotine. Your damage is still very strong in single target with this build. You're still playing Grimoire, which gives you a very strong 4-piece interaction with your tier set. Still Demonic Strength, still playing Ring of Tyranny. You still have good single target elements here, while still playing Implosion, Dreadlash, Stratagem, and also having Guillotine for that just consistent to semi-consistent trash AoE that everyone is looking for in Mythic Plus. So those are the 3 builds: Nether Portal Pit Lord single target, Nether Portal Pit Lord Cleave build, and Mythic Plus Guillotine build. I should mention very briefly here that there is indeed a 4th build, which I guess is played at times in single target, the Nether Portal Pit Lord Sack Souls build. It's played at times, like I mentioned. You're playing basically Fell Covenant over Imp Gang Boss. You're playing Sack Souls over Torn Armaments and the Expendables. The difference here, though, between, let's say, this build and this build, the two single target builds, is that with Pit Lord single target build, this build is not as punishing if your maintenance buff that this build plays, Fell Covenant, falls. This build has a bit more sustained damage with Fell Covenant, with Sack Souls, but it's punishing to play. It's sort of tedious to maintain Fell Covenant, and honestly, Fell Covenant's going away in patch 10.15 anyways, in a month and a half or so. It is about 1,000 DPS ahead from what I've seen in Sims compared to this build, but like I mentioned, even with that being the case, most people just end up playing this build anyways in single target because nobody enjoys this playstyle. So links to another Portal Pit Lord build, another Portal Pit Lord Cleave build, and Mythic Plus Guillotine build down below. And lastly, we have Affliction with 4 different builds, 4 being 4, not 3, 4 different builds to look at tonight. Now, Aff's builds really haven't changed a lot since patch 10.0. There's been some minor tweaks here and there. And in patch 10.15, Affliction's getting a lot of quality of life changes. But until that happens and things, these are the 4 builds that are being played in most settings. If you've followed Aff for a while, Haunted Soul single target, this is that build. This is your de facto default to single target build in patchwork based settings. Kazara, Rashok, Magmarax, all that. You're playing Dark Lair, you're playing Haunt into Haunted Soul for more dot damage, you're playing Creeping Death into Malefic Afflictions, into Dread Touch. Siphon Life, Vile Taint still is better than PS even with our tier bonus, and for the most part you maintain dots, you maintain Dread Touch, you cast Drain Souls outside of that, and it's pretty much just the, like I said, the general Aff build you've been playing for a long time. Now there is a build here called MV single target. This is the Malevolent Visionary single target build. So this build in single target, from what I've seen in Sims, actually pulls ahead of the Haunted Soul build once you acquire your Clash Trinket, and I've simmed it with Spoils of Neltharis, the trinket from Neltharis as well, giving you a very strong 2-minute damage base profile as Affliction. The difference here, you're not playing Seize Vitality or Haunted Soul, you're putting 2 points in Malevolent Visionary, which increases your Dark Lair damage by 5% per dot active on your target, as well as increasing its duration by 10 seconds. So Dark Lair lasts a very long time now, and you're also picking Soul Rot over here. So on top of Dark Lair lasting longer and doing more damage per dot in your target, you're also gaining another dot here, giving you even more value in your Rapture windows with Dark Lair every 2 minutes, and even more value in every window outside of that, because you have Soul Rot to pair with Vile Taint, to pair with Agony and Corruption, and Siphon Life and UA. So this build here has more peaks and valleys in the damage profile comparatively to a build like this, which is incredibly flat and honestly pretty boring to play. Now, this build's a little bit behind the DPS by about 2,000 I've seen in my own Sims until you acquire Clash Trinket, and I've simmed it with Spoils of Neltharis, the trinket from Neltharis. Either way, I would encourage you to run Sims with both if you're interested in playing both, and decide what's best for you. This build here, Malevolent Visionary build, a lot more exciting, giving you cast of Soul Rot every minute or so, giving you Vile Taint syncs with Soul Rot, Dark Lair damage. This build feels more exciting. Your cooldowns actually do damage with this build. Now, if you're looking at some Mythic Plus builds here, these both being single target, the first build here is the Haunted Soul single target AoE hybrid build. This build is, like we said, sort of a hybrid from a huge cleave build and a single target build. It has elements of the Haunted Soul build, still playing Haunt into Haunted Soul, Creeping Death, Malefic Affliction, Dread Touch, still playing Dark Lair, Vile Taint, and Siphon Life, but you're no longer playing Soul Swap, you're no longer playing Pandemic Invocation, you're playing 2 points in Soul Flame. Whenever mobs explode, they do damage. Everyone knows Soul Flame. And you're also playing a point in Seed and a point in Sow, both being pulled from Dark Virtuosity here, giving you the option to spam Seed and mass AoE, which this build brings a good bit of single target damage on bosses. You're still playing Siphon Life, still playing Vile Taint, still have that good single target emphasis here, but also brings AoE damage with Soul Flame, with Seed, with Sow. And it's a good hybrid middle ground kind of choice. It sees some play if you're playing Aff for whatever reason, Mythic Plus, maybe a bit more in tyrannical weeks, but at the same time, I've seen it played in Fort before, and it's a good solid middle ground in most settings. At the same time, even when it comes to rating on fights like, let me think here. This was a good example of a build that was played last year on Razagath, where you had a mix of single target as well as near missions, a mix of AoE with Sow, with Seed. It's played at times in fights like that, where you have a mix of single target and AoE. So it's good in plus, good in rating, just good universally if you're looking for that good middle round damage profile. Now, if you're looking for a heavy AoE build, which is more or less played mostly in Mythic Plus at times, you're going to be looking at the Grimreach Dark Harvest build. This build plays Dark Glare into Malevolent Visionary into Grimreach. This talent makes sure Dark Glare AoE its eye beam onto every target that has dots on it, dealing 50% damage from your main target. So very, very strong build in AoE with a 2-minute Dark Glare. It also plays Soul Rot into Soul Eater's Gluttony, which gives you a cooldown reduction on Soul Rot, basically syncing with your Vial Taint every cast, as long as you maintain UA. And then below that, you are playing Dark Harvest, which gives both a crit and haste amp per target hit by Soul Rot, which can be a max of 4 for 8 seconds. Still playing Haunt for a bit of single target value, Creeping Death as well. Playing Vial Taint, playing Siphon Life here, still playing Soul Flame and Drain Life, all this stuff over here, and obviously Seed into Sow. Now, the cool thing about this build is that basically every half a minute or so, a bit less with your Vial Taint and your tier set, you have Soul Rot via Soul Eater's Gluttony syncing with Vial Taint. So it basically means as long as you're in like a mid-tier key or higher, you'll have decent CDs in Vial Taint, Soul Rot, Seed Spam for basically every single trash pack in Mythic Plus. And every 2 minutes with your Dark Glare, you have incredible damage, being able to pop Soul Rot with Vial Taint, with Dark Glare, with Grimreach, and blow the pack into actual Oblivion with Seed Spam on top of that. So this build's very fun to play. Not as good in single target as the Haunted Soul hybrid build is here, obviously, because you're not playing Haunted Soul, you're not playing Crescendo, but you still have some single target elements in Siphon Life, in Vial Taint, in Haunt, and Creeping Death, and honestly, Malevolent Visionary and Dark Glare, they're fine in single target, and Grimreach is its own damage iteration. It will also do more damage in single target. It's not just an AoE all or nothing ability. You'll have your Dark Glare doing damage from Malevolent Visionary, but Grimreach is its own damage source. So it is a bit of a extra bit in single target. Not as good as playing maybe Crescendo in pure single target, but it's still something. So this build's not as bad as it seems in single target, but brings an exceptional amount of burst in AoE, and it's just a blast to play in Mythic Plus in any setting where it's honestly relevant. Links down below. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it clarified any questions you might have had about what builds are performing best in Mythic Plus or in rating or things like that in the first few weeks of patch 10.1. Now, like I mentioned, with 10.1.5 looming, I'd assume launching in a month and a half or so, give or take, things will likely change. I mean, every spec is changing, so there will indeed be new guides on all those specs in a month and a half or so, as well as maybe the return of the Mythic Plus guide, like I used to make every patch as well, but we'll see where that goes. So the next month and a half, these builds look good, but things will indeed change. So be sure to check back if you're interested in that stuff. Like I mentioned, any Week Wars add-ons, links to Twitch and Discord down below. They're all for free for you guys. And like always, at the end of the video, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys a million times for all support on Patreon. Really appreciate it. If you look at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below somewhere. And yeah, that's that. So we're still waiting to see what happens. I guess what is happening with Warlock in 10.1.5. Demo changes, the ones that were like, I guess, revisited and rehashed, I think overall are pretty solid. I'm very pumped for Destra with Crashing Chaos and 2-Minute Infernal as well in 10.15. Honestly, Affliction's gotten a lot of really good quality of life changes. Just have to see where it lands damage-wise, because I feel like whenever Aff flies too close to the sun, it gets nuked. But we'll see where it goes. So thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.